Yeah, it looks like it.
Does it work? Or have you tried?
We'll find out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well. Looking forward to the chat.
Yeah, me too.
Should be good. Good to catch up. See what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, we've been up to a lot. I was asking or looking just a minute ago when we did that first AMA, and it was the day before we launched, which I thought it was after we launched, but evidently not. So yeah, lots happened since then. So
Yes, sir. A lot indeed. We'll just give David an opportunity to jump back up on stage.
yeah, no worries.
Do his thing. He didn't do his intro already, right?
No.
Okay. We'll send an announcement out to let everybody know we're live. And you guys have an exciting Q&A with AJ tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's going to be a good one. They're getting ready to roll out Fusion over there, so I thought it would be good to bring him in to explain it. So we're just going to be talking about Fusion, so it'll be exciting.
Yeah, I look forward to listening to that one.
And we're up now over 500,000 EMP tokens that Speakeasy holds, so it's very important to us.
Yes, I imagine it is with that many. Yes, indeed.
Am I back now?
Alrighty. Do you want to go ahead and do the intro, David, and then we get cracking? People will be trickling in as we go.
No, you can't hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, Discord is the bane of my existence at the moment. Okay, good. I did the announcement, but yeah. Okay, cool. So, okay. Wait a second. Okay. So, thank you all for coming today. Thanks to Kirk for being. I believe you beat the record for the third Q&A in our space. So it's awesome to have you back again and again and again. Hopefully a couple more times. We'd love to speak to you. And yeah, welcome to The Pillars. We're a community-led space aimed at supporting protocols and educating our investors for intelligent, meaningful conversation. Here we ask the tough questions you all want answered. And I mean, Speakeasy probably doesn't need an introduction, but let me give a quick recap of what Speakeasy is. It is an NFT-based passive income protocol, which has exposure to EMP, as we already mentioned. And it is actually very straightforward how it works. But the team with Kirk, awesome guy. We love having him here. And me myself, I'm also an investor. I also have an NFT, and I always I'm always letting it ride, and always looking forward for the timer to run out. But yeah, there's a lot to talk today, a lot of big news, and yeah, I'll stop rambling and pass the microphone off to Ed Hatter. Thanks.
Thank you, David, for the intro. Kirk, good to have you back, my man.
Great to be here.
Can you give us, just for those that don't necessarily know what Speakeasy is, can you give us a very brief overview of what it is that you guys are doing over there at Speakeasy?
Sure. The Speakeasy protocol is a weekly ROI dapp that's designed to grow low and slow. And we do not have a native token. Our native token is BNB. So we're not having to support a native token, which has provided us with a lot of opportunities there to grow without having to worry about supporting the price point of a native token. And basically, you deposit BNB into the contract and get BNB out of the contract. And your daily APR is determined by what NFTs you hold in our ecosystem. There are two tiers of them. There are membership keycard NFTs, which is basically you become a Speakeasy member. And that boosts the base. You don't have to have any NFTs if you don't want to, but we call that a guest. And the static rate for a guest is 0.25% daily. But then if you get one of these membership key cards and become a member, depending on which one you get, you can double that to 0.5. And with the other one, you can go up to 0.75 a day. And then the second tier we have beyond that is what we call our cocktail NFTs, which are just further boosts to that. And you can boost yourself potentially all the way up to 1.5% a day, which is the platform maximum. And so at that point, you interact with the contract weekly instead of daily. And you just you can compound every week. You can, which we call let it ride, or you can claim, which we call cash out. And you can build up your wallet up to a maximum of 20 BNB with a 3x payout. So that means a wallet. If you get the max of 20 BNB in, you can get 60 BNB out, and that's a per wallet. So that's we aren't following the traditional miner/ROI formula in terms of how we generate revenues to pay our members rewards. By that, I mean we're not completely reliant on new deposits to do that. We are generating revenues by investing the money that we make from the sales of these NFTs, as well as a portion of what is deposited. Our treasury invests in other protocols, primarily in EMP.money and Elephant Money. Although that has changed a little bit, one of the things we'll cover today, we're starting to branch out a little bit into other things as well to generate revenues. And we'll talk about that. And, that's basically how we pay for things rather than paying for them on the backs of new depositors.
Right, exciting stuff. I'm excited to talk about the new things that you guys have got going on in the background. I noticed something that is listed here as other protocols, and underneath it says Wolf. So I'm curious to know what that is. I think what's most interesting about you guys is, like you said, you are raising your funds through external revenue streams. So provided you guys are choosing the right protocols and trustworthy protocols to invest in, there should not be any fear that you guys vanish or disappear, because you guys are picking protocols that you personally have invested in, but also protocols that are building out and themselves hold quite significant amounts of BNB, right?
Yeah, that's right. Our primary protocols, as I mentioned, are EMP and Elephant, and those will always be the two primary protocols that we are in. So if you know anything about either of them or both, you know that they're probably, particularly on BSC, I can't imagine there's any protocols that have been around longer than those two. They're constantly innovating and have done well to make it through this bear market. And so, I feel very confident that it's as safe a play as you get in DeFi. So, that's where the bulk of the money will always be invested.
So talk to me about the new stuff. There seems to be some additions to the website. You guys have new things going on all the time. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, let me real quick first call up the website because I want to show that to you in a minute, but I forgot to call that up. So we'll look at this in a second. All right, let's go back here. So my screen share is working. You can see it, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah, I can see
Okay,
it.
great. Well, okay. So as I mentioned, and as we were leading into this, when we had our primary AMA, first AMA here with you guys, that was on March 3rd, and we launched on March 4th. So I should probably just give a quick recap of that. The launch went extremely well, and once we hit the high point basically of our launch in the first 48 hours, we brought in a little shy, about around 1,200 B&B came into the protocol within that
Right.
48-hour period of time. So we were really pleased with that result, and that was kind of our starting off point. Was that. So, and that'll be important as I show you a few other things here.
Fantastic. Just shy of $400,000 at this point, right?
Yeah,
With
yeah,
these prices.
and that was on top of over 100,000 that we had earned in pre-sales of our NFTs. So, very, very satisfied with that. And the nice thing I should say about this protocol that's proven out to be true is it kind of doesn't matter how many people are in it. We're totally fine right now. We've got about 400 investors in it, and we could have 4,000, but the mechanics and the math still works at just about any level. So again, this is proving out our hope that we're heading towards. We're still not at total self-sustainability, but we're on our way, and are getting there rapidly. So the first thing that we've done since we launched is we also have rolled out one new NFT, which we call the Shot. And it is just it's a 2% point, not 2%, 0.2% bonus. And the idea behind this was on top of anything else you had. So if you had to have at least a membership key card, but if you just had that, you'd get 2% or 0.2 on that. And then if you had a cocktail. So anyway, you could instantly bump up your daily APR by 0.2%. Again, we've kept the 1.5% max. So if this took you to 1.5 or went over, it still would cap at 1.5. But our average right now in the protocol, we're just about 1% a day is the average investor's APR right now. So a lot of people were really into it because it just gave them an instant boost. And we did it as a promotion. We sold it at a really affordable price of 0.15 BNB, and we just did 50 of them and sold them out in just a little over an hour. We'll do it again. There's not any available currently, but we're going to do this as sort of a promotional thing from time to time, and roll out some just to create that excitement. So we rolled that out, and that was really successful.
I got a question, if I can interject for a second. One of the things that I'm curious about is that you guys really are taking this very slow and steady, and you'll often finish by saying, well, we don't need anybody extra coming in. We might do something as a promotional event at some point. Were you always in the mindset of designing something that was going to allow you to sit back and be so relaxed so that you could then be free to make decisions that perhaps weren't because of a pressure cooker? You don't have members of your community breathing down your neck because there's no fear of them not getting their returns.
I mean, I think that's a fairly fair statement. I think that because, our protocol isn't groundbreaking or anything, but it is a little bit unique, and the mechanics are unique. The way we use NFTs is a little bit unique. And so the first thing that I wanted to do was prove it out, because there's no way to know. You can do models on paper and models even, online and stuff, and run things in testnet. But until you have real people putting in real money, and you just don't know how it's going to go. And so the first thing that I wanted to do was prove it out. And, we've reached that point now. I think that it's proven itself out, and I think it's scalable, which is really what I wanted to find out first and foremost. And so I wasn't too concerned about getting a ton of people involved. For that reason, I wanted to make sure that what we were trying to do is what we were actually doing. And now that we've hit that point, I feel comfortable, in in allowing it to grow organically. I think I probably make that qualification a lot because, our community understands the protocol really well, but of course, they also have their built-in conceptions of how DeFi projects work. And, sometimes there's a little bit of antsiness because they just don't see a ton of new investors coming in.
Right.
And new money coming in. And so I'm always trying to remind the people that are already in the protocol and listening to these AMAs that, hey, that isn't the death knell like it might be in some other protocols, right?
Right.
We're doing just fine and everybody's, making their returns and everything's working. And we aren't, because we don't have a native token to support, that sort of volume isn't required. And I just think it takes time for people to get used to that because that's very different.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a smart approach, and I imagine it's better on the nerves in terms of having a slow trickle of money come in rather than a massive amount. Not to say that $400,000 isn't a large amount of money, but it would have been, I imagine, a very different launch if you'd raised $4 million. And that puts an added element of pressure on your shoulders that perhaps you didn't need at the time, but can slowly start to move into bearing that pressure because you've got this proven product and you know which direction you want to take it in.
Absolutely. And I've done probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 AMAs since the one that you and we did the last time, and they don't initially generate a lot of new depositors. That's just what my experience has been. And that's fine. But it's getting the name out there and getting people to understand what the concept is. And then I come back like with this and, they're still around. How long have they been around? A couple months now. Oh, well, maybe I want to take a look at that. And I totally get that. So, we're happy, just going low and slow and letting people know, everybody is, making their claims and making their compounds and everything's working as it's supposed to. And I think over time that will pay off, that people will keep hearing about us and keep hearing that this protocol is still around and, maybe look at us when they didn't maybe look at us right away or right after the AMA or whatever.
Right. Yes. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Sorry, I interrupted your slideshow. So
no, not at all. Please do.
Show me the next one.
Please do. So basically, and this actually ties in perfectly to what we were just talking about. Pretty quickly, so we started out with this good launch that we were saying, and so as you may recall, or people who recall the mechanics, basically 50% of what comes in stays in what we call the pot, which is the wallet that pays out the rewards, and it's locked there and can't ever be moved. The other 50% goes into the secondary wallet, which we call the bank, and that's what we invest. Now, of course, what happened when we launched is we had this huge influx of capital, which meant we had about 570 or something like that BNB in our pot when we got done with those first couple of days. Okay. The thing but that is because we can't touch it, that's way too much money in the pot. You know what I'm saying? For the amount of investors that we have, it's a lot. We don't need that much in the pot to cover our responsibilities, but we wanted to make sure that we had a big cushion, so we did the 50-50 thing, and I still think that was the right call. But what ended up happening is we weren't then paying attention to the pot because we had such a cushion that we were paying out. So the pot started to go down as it paid out more and more rewards every week. And that's exactly what it was designed to do. So me running as the team lead, running the protocol, I'm happy as a clam because nobody, we can just let that run for a while we focus on the bank and focus on building rewards. But as it started to go down under 200 BNB, we started to get some, questions from investors in the protocol. And I don't want to say that it was anything negative. People just going, well, what's going on with that? They see numbers going down and don't like it. And I totally understand that. And even though I, kept trying to explain, hey, this is by design. We don't want to inject into the pot. We want to use this cushion to create time to generate more revenues in the bank before we would. There's no point in injecting more money in there that's just going to sit there.
Right.
But nonetheless, I finally acquiesced and said, okay, so we just have now changed a little bit about the way that we approach it. And yes, you had mentioned Wolf earlier. We had done a small investment in Wolf because some people that are involved in one of their teams has been a big supporter of the protocol. And so we joined their team just to show support. And plus, I wanted to see how the Wolf Capital thing was working. And it's been very effective for us. And we've done very well, and they're doing very well. And so we've expanded now. What we decided to do behind the scenes was get a larger stake now. We have 4 different stakes in that protocol that equal about $22,000 that we put into Wolf. And so we're earning somewhere in the neighborhood. We set up our own team, and that one's paying at 1%. And then the other teams were paying at 2%, but they just today cut that back to 1.5 as a way to promote sustainability, which I applaud. I'm all for it. And so we're still earning very well on the funds that are in here. But what we've done now is totally separated those earnings out and combine them with the thing that we've always had, which is our pot that we're earning rewards from EMP and Elephant, which is the ish on the left. And we've got it now. Actually, we moved it from a buy swap pool into this new Grizzlyfi that they've got running on Pancake V3, and the rate's pretty good for a stable coin pool at 17%. That's pretty nice. So, and Pancake 3 is kind of confusing, but they're doing all of that stuff in the background. So anyway, we have that pot, and now we have a new pot with Wolf Capital. And what we're going to be doing starting tomorrow, every Friday, we're going to inject some funds into the pot with the goal of keeping it between 275 and 325 BNB. So just so people know what to expect and don't get concerned when they see it go down into the low 200s or something, we're going to go ahead and support it at this level. And so what you're seeing in this slide is this is where we are currently. So we've got, out of those two, we've got about half of our goal. Our burn rate right now has been about 25 BNB a week. And you can see that right on our website. We give all of this information out. Some of it is real time and some of it is daily updated. But the bottom line is what you're seeing here is, all the overalls. Here's our daily boost average. Like I said, it's 1.02% right now. And we do this little analysis every week. We go back and we look at what happened. And so like for this prior week, we had claims of about 90 BNB, and we had new deposits that offset that, so that our net outflow or our burn rate was about 25 BNB, and that was the same for the week previous as well. So, that's our goal right now, is to see if we can come up with that 25 BNB coming out of investments and earnings, so that we're basically at that point, we would be sort of quote unquote self-sustainable because we're putting back into the pot what we need to pay out all the time, and we're not touching all of our investments. So this is what we're working on now. And so we're halfway there already, and we haven't started. And we'll just be keeping our focus on growing this weekly injection so that everybody feels super comfortable about what's going on in the pot. So that's new.
And is Wolf the only one that you kind of guys have looked at, or are you looking at others?
Currently it is the only other one, but we will be looking at others. We have an investment in Elephant Money futures that we were thinking about maybe putting into this mix, but I don't think I'm going to go that way. But yeah, we're looking around right now to see how we want to spread this out a little bit. So that's how we're going to probably get from half to the full 25, is to get into some other stuff. And we are doing that. We also created a new thing called the back room. And what the back room, the idea behind the back room is basically, Speakeasy does what it does. And I think it's doing it pretty well. But it is what it is. And I don't want to change it because, again, as we discussed today, I think it's working. And I don't want to mess with a good thing. And but there are other opportunities that are out there that I might not want to risk speakeasy treasury funds with, but
Right.
that are still interesting, and some are also the things that speakeasy is involved in. So I came up with this idea of the back room, which is basically a secondary investment group. Right now, it's about 10% of our total investors, so it's about 40 guys and gals involved with it. And basically, what we do in the back room is we present opportunities to the back room subscribers, and some of them are opportunities to pair up with the Speakeasy Treasury on investments, and other ones are just outright offers on with new protocols that we're looking at and talking to. And so we're just giving people the opportunity to learn about new stuff that we're getting exposed to because of where we are, and give them opportunities to participate, which then helps, everybody's bags and also helps support the primary protocol. So we've started doing that, and it's been successful. The first thing that we did was we did a thing with the Speakeasy Treasury, and we had the Speakeasy Treasury buy up a membership key card and an old-fashioned cocktail to get to the full 1.5%. And then we opened up max wallets, and we offered participation in those max wallets. So we had one that was 20 slots of 1 BNB. We had another one that was 10 slots of 2 BNB, and the last one that was 4 slots of 5 BNB, because our wallet maxes are 20 BNB. Right. And so we sold those off to members of the back room, and they could participate. And the benefit to them was they didn't have to buy any of these NFTs, nor do they have to do any of the management of it. We just pay them out ourselves. And so it was popular, and we generated some revenue for the protocol and got some people in, and they don't have to pay taxes or gas or any of that stuff. So that was successful. Then we started to talk with other protocols, and we've gotten into some other protocols now through the back room. But again, this what we earn goes back into Speakeasy. It's not a separate thing in terms of the treasury. We haven't offered yet. This is going to be the next. So for anybody that's here from Speakeasy, you haven't seen this before.
Okay.
Yeah. We have taken a position in Flex IRA, which is a human-based trading scenario. It's an invitation-only kind of thing. I think they're going to open it to the public a little bit later on, and if they do, we will offer an opportunity with it. But I'm excited about that, and we're just getting going with that. We've also done now campaigns with these two protocols, with Foodtopian and BurnSwap, where we've gone in and bought. These are both just in pre-launch and pre-sale, and we've gone in and bought their NFTs and bought some of their token, and then are running contests where we're supporting them, and we're also then selling those, packaging them with some NFTs of ours and things like that, and creating opportunities for our backroom members there as well. And that's been very effective, to be quite honest, because one, it exposes our investors to other projects that we think are reasonable. I mean, we're not vetting these people completely, but I do talk to them and feel like they're, have the right attitudes about DeFi, but everybody presses their own buttons, right?
Have you rejected any?
No, not. This is so new that I actually approached both of these, and I knew people in the project. Like, I don't know if you know Scott, the investor, but he is one of the team members on Foodtopian, and that's why I found about it and did research and felt comfortable doing it. And he's been supporting Speakeasy from day one. So it's kind of a relationship-based thing, to be honest, at this point, and we're just getting started. But the thing that's been great about it is that we're exposing our investor group to some other projects that they might not find any other way, or giving them deals on something to get in. But for us, it also exposes us to these communities, and we have had several people come into our protocol by seeing us, showing goodwill. And like in the Foodtopian case, we went out and bought 20 of their NFTs and bundled them with that shot NFT of ours and sold them to our people. And that created a lot of goodwill, and everybody was happy. And the people that are in Footopian found out about us and came over and looked at our project, and some of them invested in us. So, it's been nice that way. And so, again, we're going to do more of this as we go forward. So I think that, that's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting. There's a lot to unpack. Firstly, I'm going to say from the first time we spoke to now, there has, and not to say that the delivery of the message wasn't good then, because you were excellent in the first Q&A, but there's a real shift I've noticed in how you're speaking about Speakeasy in a really positive way, as far as I'm concerned, and a real confidence and weight behind what you're saying, because obviously you've slowly built this out, and you wanted to prove that it works first. And I think a lot of people should take strength from that, because you're doing it the right way. You're not just creating something for the sake of it and then throwing all your eggs in one basket. Everything feels very considered. It's very measured. You're listening to your community, and I think it reflects, for you guys, for yourself, and for the protocol. Just when you go into your communities, there doesn't appear to be an awful lot of negativity at all. And when a question is asked, for the most part, they're intelligent questions designed at getting an intelligent answer back, and people kind of accept that response. So well done on that, because that's 50% of the battle, right? Is the community management.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you. That means a lot. But yes, I think that we just don't have drama in our
Right.
It just is not a thing. And I mean, other than just the occasional thing, but that you get from trolls or whatever. But yeah, I think that everybody so far has appreciated, the approach that we're taking, and that I just think basically we know who we are, and we stay in our lane. And we're not trying to be all things to all people. This is just one thing that you might consider in your mix, in your bag of what you're investing in DeFi. That's it. And
right.
That's all this is. It's not complicated. And I wouldn't tell anybody to put their bag in any one project. Certainly not this one.
Right. It's not complicated, but it isn't easy either. Just because what's being created is simple doesn't mean making sure that it works is simple.
Right.
And one of the questions I want to ask is, who do you turn to for advice? And one of the things I'm sure your investors want to know is who you're chatting to in the background to kind of gain a bit of insight into where perhaps you should put a bit more money, where you shouldn't. I know that you've got a core select people that I'm sure you speak to. I mean, I see SK Crypto in here, for example. He's been in every other Q&A that you've certainly done with us, which is a real testament to him. When he stands behind a project, he really stands behind it. So I'm sure he's one of the people that you might turn to. But who do you really look at and say, right, that's the person I want to go to for advice?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the first person that really sort of took me under his wing and that I consider to be a mentor is AJ Brockman over at EMP. And we talk on a regular basis. And I have done well personally in the EMP protocol, and I've also learned a lot professionally, if you will, from being a part of that protocol. So he would obviously be my number one with that. And I don't necessarily have any sort of insider information, and I don't want to project that I do, but AJ's very good about not doing that sort of thing, and that's fine. And I never ask, but I do know how the protocol works. I know what's coming next, and I'm very excited about it. But he has been, instrumental in helping me not only understand the dynamics of creating a protocol, but also, the EMP community is also rock solid and amazing. So also taught me a lot about. Just being involved as a community member taught me a lot about how to run a community like this. And so I would say that. And then also second to that, of course, would be SK Crypto K, because at first, when I first envisioned this concept, it was just EMP. That was where the whole idea started and created the kernel, was just EMP. And, so as I went along and realized that, that this could probably be better if there was, just like in anybody's investment bag, if you spread that out a bit. And I reached out to SK myself, and I think he's told the story before, that normally he gets a bunch of people, reaching out to him, but he's also involved in EMP. And so I had reached out to him by DM and said, hey, we've never talked, but I know you're involved in EMP. I've seen you over there. I think you know who I am because I did the academy. And I, wanted to talk to him about what we were doing with Speakeasy and ask some questions and get some advice. And he was the one that came at me with elephant. He's like, you have to get into elephant. So I'm like, okay, well, you got to teach me about it because I never was even in it as a private investor. So that's how. So those two, primarily as I'm meeting new people in these other protocols, I'm learning stuff every day about it. And so, but I would think for the most part, and also SK, shout out to SK, is the one who got me interested in learning and into Flex IRA. So that's the latest thing that he's done for me as well as for the.
He appears very well connected, and in his own Telegram group, he has these little gems that kind of almost fly under the radar, right? He's got his feelers out on those pies that are very hidden, but are doing very well, which is fantastic.
I can't keep up with it. He probably sends me information on 3 things that I maybe look at one because I just can't keep up. But anyway,
and in terms of in terms of anybody that doesn't know AJ, his story is phenomenal. We won't go over it now in too much detail, but needless to say, he's had many hurdles he's had to get over in life, and has not just come out the other side a massive success, but he's also incredibly humble with it too. In real life, he's been successful in the crypto world and DeFi world. He's successful. So the fact that you're able to turn to him for advice and your main investment is in EMP is also a real strength for your protocol, I think.
Right. And I mean, I think the guy has, the most integrity in the space of anyone that I've ever talked to. And, I could do an hour AMA on AJ, but, and I would just shill slightly for us in the sense that tomorrow we're having AJ, over in the our Telegram, Speakeasy Telegram, for an AMA to talk about, Fusion, which is the final form of EMP that is launching very soon. In fact, I believe the white paper is being provided today or maybe tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure, but it's very soon that at least the first part of Fusion is going to roll out. And so if you are in EMP, or even if you're not and haven't heard of it before, it's going to change pretty substantially with Fusion. So if you want to learn a little bit about that, I'm going to be learning and asking him all kinds of questions. So he's going to be doing an AMA, and I think it's 7 p.m. tomorrow. That's UTC time. So
I'm definitely going to be tuning into that one because I think he's fascinating to listen to, and I'm personally I've got a large position with EMP, so I'm keen to hear what's coming out. Now, talking about both of these protocols, I would be remiss if I didn't ask your opinion on the current state of affairs with both EMP and Elephant Money, because yes, they've been around for a long time. They hold a large amount of BNB, and they're successful in both their own rights. But at the same time, there are rumblings that often come out. With Elephant Money, it's when are you going to recover from the exploit? When is it going to get back to peg? And with EMP, it's the same thing. As a protocol is reliant on its peg being reached, and it is taking some time to get back there. Does that concern you at all?
Well, let me tackle EMP first. No. The short answer is no. And the reason that I believe that isn't necessarily super sophisticated. Is just, to me, what I think is common sense. One of the things I've always appreciated about the way the EMP system is set up is the fact that it's pegged to Ethereum. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds about all pegging and what that means with Ethereum, but basically the price of EMP has a connection to the price of Ethereum at 4,000 to 1. and that's what determines the peg. Now, of course, right now you're right. The EMP token is substantially under peg, but there are reasons for that I think are more market driven than actually protocol driven. So I'm an ETH maxi, and I, really believe in it, the power of it, and and the fact that EMP has hitched its wagon to that from day one, to me means a lot. So I've never really looked at the peg aspect to be too critical, especially now. One thing I can say is that that with Fusion coming out, I believe the boardroom that they currently have is going away completely, and that is what peg in the current protocol was all wrapped around with. If you were over pegged, then you were earning, if you put your e-share into the boardroom, you were earning insane percentages and getting a bunch of new EMP token. That hasn't happened for like 6 months, I think. So really, that part of the ecosystem has not been performing. Yet the entire ecosystem still survives, and in some ways is doing fine, given the circumstances. So that's a very long-winded way of saying, no, I'm not overly concerned about the peg, and I think that in EMP's case anyway, and I think that the tokenomics are changing in a way with Fusion that it makes it even less of a concern than it was before. As far as Elephant is concerned, I will admit that I am by no means as intimately involved with Elephant money as I am with EMP. It's funny. I was talking to somebody else in an AMA, and I said, yeah, we were talking about Elephant, and I'm like, yeah, no, I've never even talked to Bank Teller. I don't think he even knows who I am. And so, whereas that's so not the case with EMP. So I don't want to pretend that I have information that I don't. I do know that Trunk, has been challenged getting back to peg. And I think that my position with that is more reliant on others, SK and others, telling me what to think about what's happening than anything else, except for my overall feeling in the general market is that, these protocols, these two protocols primarily, have survived. And if there's going to be a turn in the market, which I believe there is going to be, I think that, is it going to be this year? I don't know. Maybe. But I think that even if we retrace some more from where we've been retracing these last day now or so, I think it could flex around a little bit. But I believe that ultimately, we are going to have another bull run. And if you don't believe that, I'm not too sure what you're doing, spending an hour listening to us talk. So given that, I look at Elephant and I go, Elephant is an elephant. It's huge, the amount of assets that it holds. I think it can sustain itself until that happens. And when that happens, it's gonna be, a substantial win for both of those protocols. So, I can't give you lots of technical reasons. That's not the way I approach this.
Sure.
But I think logically it makes sense.
And if for whatever reason you start to feel like, okay, things are not going to necessarily turn upwards in the way that you anticipated, how ready or free will you feel to maybe move away from those if you need to, for the sake of what you're doing with your protocol?
Yeah, great question. Let me hold on real quick. Let me share something with you. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a quick look at where we are with these two protocols. So with EMP, we have about 180,000 invested. Of that 180, 151,000 of it is completely liquid. Our biggest position in EMP has been and will always be the EMP ETH LP farm. So first of all, it's liquid. Second of all, half of it is Ethereum. So we have the ability to pull out of EMP and at the very least have our Ethereum. So half of this is Ethereum, not EMP token.
Right.
So if in fact we wanted to pull out, and if in fact we wanted to break our LP pair, we would still have a substantial amount of ETH, even if EMP just completely imploded. So I feel fairly comfortable there. With Elephant, same thing. Now we have, we're 1/3 of what we have in EMP. But again, yes, we have 150 billion EMP or Elephant token. Yes, we do. But
Right.
that's fully liquid. But the biggest amount of cash, well, yes, the biggest amount of cash, kind of a third of that 65 is in the token. The 2/3 of it are in their farms, which again are liquid. And in the case of the elephant farms, I really like the mechanic that they have that even though you're depositing a matching amount of, BTCB with trunk or ETH with trunk like we're doing, those are kept separately. So it's not a real LP pair. So if you pull out, there isn't an impermanent loss issue at all.
Right.
So I love that. That's super bullish. So I'm not concerned about that at all. So we do, I guess what I'm saying is we do have a way to get out of these protocols if we need to. And yeah, maybe we would get hurt on their native tokens. But we do have, Ethereum, Bitcoin, also being held in these that we could pull out. And then we also keep, right now it's about 70 grand. We also keep liquid assets in the treasury as well. We're never going to get too far down in that, just for that very reason as well.
Right, and I think being liquid is very important, especially in the market as it currently stands. Because although I'm bullish on both these protocols, it doesn't necessarily mean they're 100% guaranteed success. So if there is a need to pivot, and you maybe take a small hit, but you're going to take those assets and put them elsewhere for the sake of the protocol, the fact that you can do that readily is a very positive thing.
Yeah, and I think that I'm always looking at it as a balance. I trust these protocols. And that's reflected in the amount of money that we have invested there. If you take for instance, Wolf, okay, that's a 60-day lockup. So that's not nothing, but it's not permanent. And they're paying out a pretty good rate. So we've got almost 25 grand there, still not even approaching these two. And then as an example, with the new one that we're in, I looked at that, and that's a 6-month lockup of your premium. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the most time I've ever locked anything up. But it seems I feel comfortable. But we went in with $10,000, so we're not like betting the bank on these things that require a lot of extra time. Right. So if we make a good return on that 10 and double it or triple it, so we're not looking to just make a killing on these things. But I kind of have a balance that I like to look at, and and I'm considering what what time frame we're talking about to be liquid again versus not. And that's why when we went into EMP's ROI into their detonator and reactor contract, which are locked, we went in really small but targeted. We won this daily snipe, so we got a huge prize. But in detonator we put in $2,500, and in reactor we put it in $1,000. So I mean, and I did that specifically knowing that money was locked up forever. So I did not want to expose the protocol to that much risk. But we won the snipe on both days, and that's done really well for us.
And those, I mean, the detonator, I could go on for hours, and you and I have briefly spoken about those, both of those. They're great, but time will tell on those. One of the things that, and I'm glad that you say that you've taken a relatively small position, because it is one of those things where you might look at your max payout and say, well, that looks like a really nice large sum. It's very positive, but when the daily bursts are dropping, it's kind of redundant, right? If you can only take out a fraction, a tiny piece. So it's about waiting in relation to the
Yeah.
detonator and reactor and seeing where we'll be in maybe 6 months time.
Well, yeah, and as you know, following the first Fusion release, they're going to be releasing version 3 of the detonator contracts, which further incentivize people to stay in. Because, I mean, again, I feel like those contracts have probably been hit the hardest
Right.
by this market, because it's created a situation where people aren't patient enough to do a 5-2 or a 6-1 strategy, and they're just claiming every day, and
Yes.
to try to get out as much as they can. And I mean, I get it, but that's brutal to the way the protocol works. So
Right. And short-sighted.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they're only hurting their own bags, because if and when those daily bursts do go up, and by quite a large jump, they're not going to have anywhere near as much to take out.
Right.
In terms of Speakeasy, where are you positioning yourselves? Because at the moment, I would say you guys invest in other protocols and offer NFTs to give people that passive income through the external revenue streams that you generate. Are you wanting to ever position yourselves where you sit somewhere in the middle, where maybe smaller protocols might come along and take a look at you guys and say, well, actually, you might be an excellent external revenue for our investors?
That's a great question. Interesting. I mean, I think that's possible. I don't know if anybody's doing that. I don't. If they are, I'm not aware of. I mean, we have about 7% of all of our wallets are max wallets. So meaning that they came in with the max 20 BNB day one.
Right.
So there are some people that are serious about the protocol and are playing it for what it's worth. And so whether that's a protocol or not, I don't, and they haven't made me aware of it. So I think it's possible, and I think time will tell. And that's one of the reasons why, I mentioned before, we go back to the website, why I am such a believer in providing this type of information to everybody and to be transparent about what we're doing and why we're doing it. I told you when we launched, when we got to the highest point, we're like at 1150 BNB or something like that when we launched.
Right.
Well, you can see right now we currently have 1220 BNB in the protocol, and so that's after 6 weeks of paying out rewards to everybody, and that's now with BNB at 340ish. I think when we launched, BNB was 280, something in that range, 280, 290. Yeah. So we have more BNB at a higher price point. So we're just chugging right along. So I think as people see this, again, this isn't millions of dollars and all that, but it is what it is, and it can be potentially sustainable for a fair number of people. And I think as people continue to see it, and they're still there, and what we're trying to do right now is educate people to not think about Speakeasy as a minor contract. Meaning, because we're starting now at this point, we're almost 2 months in, and I'm just now hearing the beginnings of, you've been around for 2 months. Am I too late?
Right. And
I'm just starting to hear that. That's why we're changing this injection thing, to make sure people feel confident in where the pod is, and just trying to educate people and going, no, you're not late. In fact, we're healthier than we were when we launched. So, that's what we're trying to do.
And I mean, I can see some people throwing in some questions about how the percentages work, and I will ask you, as always, to summarize again just a little bit at the end. But in terms of educating your community, are you going to be releasing videos? Will you do some kind of visual learning as well as the written word and Q&As? Some people might not be able to make your Q&As or AMAs, for example. They don't want to listen back to them. But there are people that will be heavily invested in watching YouTube videos. And I wonder if that's a really good direction for you guys to move into, to give your investors and future investors little snippets of information that can really whet their beak in terms of what you're doing.
It's so funny that you say that, because yes, and it's totally the shoemaker's son has no shoes. Because that's kind of my background in the real world. and yet I haven't gotten around to it. I mean, we do have our AMAs up on our on our YouTube, but I need to do some of those type of videos, and I've been planning on doing it, but it's escaped me so far. So
Right.
it's definitely something that needs to be done, and a reasonable criticism, if you will, I guess, of my stewardship that I haven't done it yet. But
I mean, you've been busy, and so far you're far healthier, as you said, than you were when you started. So I don't think anybody can criticize that.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, the challenge is, people obviously, we're not in a bull market, and people aren't in a position for a number of reasons. Not just crypto, but the world in general, where
Right.
they're being very careful about where they put their expendable, investment funds. And I get it, and so, I'm appreciative of the fact that, we've got 350 people that have done so here and seem to be fairly happy so far with what we're doing. And, the other thing is that, as and even if I had a bigger staff, we have social media person now and all that kind of thing as we're growing, but it doesn't matter. The success of the growth of the protocol, it can be fine at this size, but it's only going to grow if the people that are in it do that work. I mean, that's just the bottom line. This is just the way this works. Somebody talks to their buddy about this protocol and goes, yeah, I've been in this for or so, and it's working, and that's how this is going to grow. I just need to kind of just keep the fire burning, and so I don't beat anybody over the head about it. If you like the protocol, though, talk about it, share it with people in the space, and that's going to be what takes this from a $500,000-ish protocol over over $1 million, and then whatever.
Right. Now, with that in mind, is there going to be a point that you're going to perhaps put your foot on the gas a bit more and really start driving that outreach from your communities? Will you perhaps run incentives, competitions, just to really push people to get the word out for you? Because unfortunately, the way this space is, people often won't do anything unless there's something attached to it for them, by way of a freebie, right, or a bonus, and that's just the nature of the beast. So will you lean into that a tiny bit and kind of have it work in your favor?
I mean, yes. I'm only laughing and hemming and hawing about your question because it's probably the biggest question that I ask myself on a daily basis is, what do I want to do with this now long term? Meaning, I feel like in some ways I kind of feel like this small little boutique little protocol is kind of cool. And, if I can get it to the point, and I'm very confident we can achieve that thing that I was talking about self-sustainability in terms of covering our weekly burn rate, that the protocol becomes quote unquote self-sustainable. There's something to be said, in my opinion, about keeping it small, or, I mean, I'm not going to throttle it or anything. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, if you think about it, and this is one of the things that I've learned doing this, if you think about it, every time a deposit comes in and we see the bot go off and all of the whiskey glasses get filled, and everybody goes, ooh, a 6 BNB deposit, ooh, a 10 BNB deposit, and everybody cheers. And that is totally fun and totally exciting. But as the guy who's running the protocol, I see that 10 BNB and I go, okay, that's 30 BNB I got to pay out. We got, and when you're looking at it that way, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it. But so from that standpoint, I guess what I'm saying is I am more concerned about making sure that I can do everything within my power to get the investors that we already have to ROI and beyond than I am about growing it from $500,000 to $1 million to $5 million. I'm less concerned about that. And, I understand why everybody is like, go, 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 go. But, I think I'm still probably in more of a little bit of a protective posture as we play this out. I just want to grow it that way. I just do. And so yes, the answer to your question is yes. I think probably I'll be much more to get more aggressive once we've hit that goal of, it's not really self-sustainability, but where we're matching income and outflow.
Right.
I think at that point, then we could say, yeah, let's scale. But I mean, we have people all the time that are, in our protocol, that are going out and doing things and bringing people in, and that's fantastic. And I like it that way. As you know, or maybe remember from the first time we did the AMA, our whole system isn't set up to reward people for referrals and that kind of thing. So, to introduce something like that would be difficult. So I don't know that we'll approach it that way, but we may do some experimentation with like some larger YouTube people that I think are in the right place, and we might try that and just see how it goes. For a type of person who's not interested in making their bank on referrals and then hyper compounding, because you can't do that in our protocol. So, I think we'll try some things. We will try some things and we'll do things. But again, I'm also very particular about spending money on marketing and such. So we've spent way less on marketing than we could. And that's only not because I don't believe in marketing, but because I always fall back on making sure that the protocol is healthy enough to try to live up to its commitments. This is obviously DeFi. And, there is no guarantees on anything. People are pushing their own button. But at the same time, I want people to feel like we're doing everything we can, to keep the protocol healthy. So.
Well, I think, it's a very comprehensive answer that you've offered. And I think people should, again, be listening to what you're saying, which is that, it is great to obviously see those buys coming in. But for every buy that comes in, you've got to 3x pay out. And therefore, it adds that pressure to you of making sure that you are in a position to be able to pay out.
Right. All I'm saying is I take that seriously.
Exactly.
It's like, I have fun seeing it too, but I take it seriously from the standpoint of, somebody has just put money into this protocol and they're expecting to at least get their money back and maybe more. Right. So how can we best do that for everybody so that we all succeed? And that's really what this is about. I think also, people have a tendency to look at the team lead and go, okay, what can you do for me? And there is some of that, but really these protocols, it's up to you to work the protocol properly, to understand it, and if you believe in it, to evangelize it a little bit.
Right. Yes, it is. There is a lot of personal responsibility that needs to come from the investor. And when marketing is always one of those difficult questions, and always a question that is asked, and it drives me crazy when people say it, because just doing a Q&A like this is in itself, and people often overlook that.
It's the type I prefer.
Right. Yeah. Me too. These kind of conversations and like I mentioned, the educational videos, I think they go a long way to give people the kind of information that they need. Another question that you're obviously going to get leveled is, how and when are you going to expand your team? Do you have in your mind a limit by which you won't, once you get to that limit, once you go over it, that's your point of saying, right, I now need to bring someone else in to help me manage this?
Yeah. We've added somebody to handle all the social media stuff, so I'm not having to post. I focus my attention pretty much primarily on Telegram. We have some of our bartenders that are working with our Discord community that you guys have set up for us. And then, we've got Twitter and we've got all these other things that I just don't have time. So we've already done that. One of the great things about this type of thing is once it's running and it's running correct, it's not, the contract itself doesn't really need any real attention unless you're going to add another feature or something. So, I think that I'm not opposed at all to the idea of other people coming into it if the protocol needs it. Right now, I'm able to handle the lion's share of the management of the protocol. And, I think that, and I'm comfortable doing so that, that's the other thing, right? You have to look at, there's all kinds of little intricacies. It's fascinating to me. I was just thinking as I was pondering your answer, how do other protocols do this? Well, other protocols have native token, and
Right.
they're just giving team members like a buttload of native token, and then and maybe they're vesting it, but still, that's how they're getting paid.
Right.
And so we don't have that flexibility because our native token's BNB, so that's actual cash money. So, we have that to consider as well. And then, I just go, it's just hard for me to go, well, okay, do I take $1,000 of BNB and pay for X, that's marketing or personnel, or do I take that $1,000 and invest it for the community? That's
right.
That's a tough call, man, because I don't have free money in the form of native tokens to just be handing out. So, that's the challenge.
Right, and again, that's fair pushback on that. And I think the fact that you can still handle the lion's share as it stands, and don't necessarily need to bring someone in as yet, is also a good sign. But open to it as and when you need to. In terms of your NFTs, do you have any other ideas? Is there anything coming down the pipeline for your own NFTs that might break away slightly from the current format and move into something different? A suggestion that's just been thrown by David, whom who introduced us, has said, what about a referral NFT for the community? Perhaps you get X amount of referrals and you get a bonus on your returns. These kind of things that are rattling around in terms of ideas.
Yeah, I like that. The other thing, I mean, again, I will continue to be transparent about what we're doing. And the other challenge that I face in running this particular protocol, and it kind of ties into your earlier question, is Jack T, who's the dev, who, is my dev on the project, is a guy who's involved in a lot of other projects. And he also has a real world full-time job. So,
right.
And I'm not a dev, not in this environment anyway. So I have been unwilling, that's not fair. I have not wanted to consider using other devs yet. I don't think Jack would take it personally if I did. But that's what it would probably take if I wanted to introduce a lot of new mechanics, just because he's so busy. But I trust him so implicitly that it's very hard for me to think about having to go through the work of, not only finding somebody who I think is up to it chops wise, but then I also feel, so comfortable with, dealing with a contract that's, pushing a lot of dollars and cents through it. So I am a little bit limited in the amount of access time that I have to Jack. He does continue to do stuff for us, but I have to be careful and respectful of his time as well. He's got a family and, all those things. So,
right.
That's probably would be one area that I may be forced to expand in, is finding a secondary dev that might be able to take us further down the road in terms of, other things. I mean, Jack's not gone. I don't want to suggest that, but
right.
He's not full time on this project either. So just to be
clear. I'm going to be cheeky then and ask, is there anything that you have in the back of your mind that you are looking forward to wanting to explore at some point? This is your brainchild, it's your baby. With anybody that is creative in this respect and create something like this, there is inevitably always something else that they're thinking about doing. I can't for 1 second imagine, nor will I believe, that this is the final stop. So,
No, it's not. And, I'm very fascinated with what we've done in terms of the utility of NFTs and the way our NFTs work with the protocol and the level of adoption and of them. I think NFTs, deservedly so, have kind of earned a bad rep. Just the NFT for the NFT's sake, so to speak. But I think now that DeFi is looking at unique ways to create NFTs to give them real power. So yeah, I do think that there are some things in that area that I am looking at. That I'm not, at a point yet where I think there was an interesting idea that David. I'm also looking at potentially the idea of an NFT. How do I explain this? Of an NFT that might allow someone to sell their position in Speakeasy.
Interesting. Okay.
If they so desired.
Right.
So yes, the crux of your question is, yeah, you're right. I'm always thinking, and it's interesting, and quite frankly, innovating and coming up with new things is lifeblood to these type of projects because people just get bored.
Right.
So I mean, that's just the reality. So we always have to and keeping things fresh and interesting, and I think we've done that so far, and I continue to plan on doing it. I think the back room is something that we introduced specifically to address this. Most of the things that happen in the back room aren't contract based. In other words, it's manual opportunities to go in and get stuff. So that's a way that we're expanding the overall universe of the Speakeasy world without having to, invest a lot in contract dev. So we'll continue to do those kinds of things. We're definitely going to be doing some things with EMP in that regard, which is a little alpha too. Once they get done with this Fusion rollout, AJ and I have been talking about how to leverage the back room.
Exciting
to do that. Yeah. So anyway,
I love the thought process around being able to sell a position. Has that come from listening to anybody in particular in an AMA? You've been inspired by somebody, or is that just something that you think would be a cool idea to explore?
I think it comes from listening, and you might relate to this. It comes from listening into EMP AMAs. There's been a long time interest in them potentially creating an NFT type of environment to represent your position in one of the detonator as a service contracts. Right. And so I think probably it germinated from there, because I understand, the idea of that. And I think that, so I'm looking at ways to potentially do things like that might create some flexibility for people and might even involve the actual treasury making offers to buy back positions from people. And so I think there's some interesting things to do there, in order, because for instance, it's just like we go in as a treasurer and sweep the floor on NF trade and buy back cocktails to continue to put pressure on the price point and all of those things, and also just to reduce the exposure that we have as a protocol. So things like that, always really interest me because we're always looking to create, value for the investor that's involved.
Right. It's funny you should say that because I did a Q&A with a protocol not too long ago who have developed this very thing, the ability to be able to sell an NFT and sell your position as a whole, not fractionalized, but as a whole, you can, partially, a partial way through whatever your returns are, you can sell the NFT. So after this, we can have a private chat, and perhaps I can put you in touch with them, and you guys can have a conversation and just see if that's something that you're willing to explore together, or just that you can pick their brains a little bit on how they did it.
Yeah, no, that would be great because I'm fascinated by the idea of saying, for instance, I mean, I'm not saying necessarily even a Speakeasy current wallet position. There may be some other NFT opportunities where, for instance, let's say you put $1,000, you bought an NFT dollars, and you ride it for 6 months and you hit the break-even point, and then you can either stay in it for another 6 months and earn, I'm just making numbers up, $1,500 in the second 6 months, or the bank comes in and goes, "I'll give you $750 for it right now."
Right.
Um, So things like that, that's a very simplified version of it. But things like that are interesting when you start running the math on them. And, again, it's all predicated on creating these systems. And that's the other thing, right? We're creating systems where we can generate revenue so that once we know we can do that and we can do that reliably, then you can start figuring out how to do this, to have it actually make sense when you're not just working with play money, because again, that's the other thing. We're working with BNB all the time with all of this. We can't just we can't be inflationary. We can't just generate more token or whatever.
Right. And I think at the core of it as well is that it's also ensuring that you're providing something to the community that is going to be useful to them. There are things that crop up in life. People want to exit their position.
Right.
And, the fact that they might be able to do that on a secondary market, or even, again, David hitting us with some more suggestions, you yourself, Speakeasy themselves, buying out people directly, perhaps creating your own dapp with a small marketplace in which people can put up their NFTs and you can offer to buy them out. Something like that is incredibly useful to people that might at some stage want to exit. And they feel confident with you guys to be able to do so. I imagine that would encourage a lot more people coming in, because they would really, truly feel like their investment is not only secure by way of your revenue streams, but also the fact that if at any stage they need some of the money back, they can get that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't, I've enjoyed this conversation so much that I am feeling I'm going to say something that I didn't think I was going to ever say. Really, well, not for a while, but there is another project coming down the pike that I'm involved in that also Speakeasy might ultimately be involved. That is completely different, but and has a component in the real world.
Right.
That's very, very interesting. So, if that's not vague enough for you, there is something, a new project for me coming that I think Speakeasy can also be involved in, and people that are in Speakeasy by extension be involved in. So I'm always looking at things like that. So you're right.
Interesting stuff. You're teasing now. I look forward to deep diving into that the next time we speak. I always love these conversations. I am aware I've had you now for just over an hour and 15. I could go on for another hour, but people might start getting very angry with me.
I don't know. I've been watching the numbers go up this whole time we were talking. So
I know they have been going up. Yeah, it's steadily growing. Just for those that perhaps were a little bit confused on the percentages that they can earn.
Yeah.
Can you just write again just what it is that they need to get in order to earn, let's say, the maximum, and then work backwards from there?
Sure. Let me go. Let me get into this.
In the meantime, we're going to run the giveaway competition. In order to be liable to win, you need to jump into the Speakeasy section of our Discord and the Speakeasy Telegram. So if you can prove that you've done both of those things, then you are going to be in with a chance to win $100.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll just run through this real quick for those that are asking. So again, when you come into the contract, you can just come into the contract and just deposit BNB, and that's it. And if you do that, you're what we call a guest. Now, interestingly enough, we have 0 guests. So no one has taken us up on that. Everybody that's involved has gotten some sort of NFT, and there's a good reason for that, because they're worth it. But you can do that, and we're not going to get rid of that. That's just, we just want to have it there. So, but the first level then of NFTs that you get involved with are what we call our membership NFTs, or membership key cards. There are 2 of them. One of them is the silver and one is the gold. One's not better than the other. They just have different numbers associated with them. They have the same exact utility. And that utility is they are boosting your daily APR beyond the base 0.25 that anybody can get without an NFT. So in the case of the silver, it's doubling it. by holding it. And so instead of 0.25 per day, you're earning 0.5 per day. You can mint one of these directly off of our website for 0.25 BNB. So that's your initial cost to get into it. The gold ones, again, work the exact same way. They're just a little bit more expensive, but they give a bigger boost. So they cost 0.75 BNB to mint one, but you get a 0.5 boost or to a total of 0.75 daily. So that's the first level that you work up off of being just a guest. Now, if you want to take that further, we have one more level, and that's what we call the cocktail NFTs. And these they do have the exact same functionality, the utility of boosting your daily APR even further. So you purchase one of these, and you have to stay in the lane that you're in, meaning if you have a silver NFT membership key card, you would buy a silver cocktail to go with it. And if a gold, you buy a gold cocktail to go with that. You can't cross over. And you can only have one cocktail. You can't stack them. So depending on, we'll just stay with silver as an example. Depending on what cocktail you purchase, you can go from a minimum of 0.75 a day daily all the way up to 1.5 with the old-fashioned cocktail. Now, and 1.5 is the max that our protocol allows. If for some reason you get a combination of NFTs that takes you over 1.5, it still caps it at 1.5. And then the gold is the same. It's just there are only 4 of them instead of 6. So again, you could go and say, well, I can get a silver cocktail and I can pair that, which just gives me 0.5, and I can pair that with a margarita at 0.35. So now I'm at 0.85 a day, and that's going to cost me X for that, and compare it off of, just getting a membership gold, which is 0.75. So you're almost already there. So it's just a kind of a game to be playing to try to figure out what the best value is, because all of our cocktails have already been minted. We don't have any live mints going on right now, and we're probably not going to have another live mint for a while. So you have to buy these off the secondary market. You can do that right from our website. This is on the website. Here's where you mint the key cards that I just talked about. And then the cocktails, for each collection, there's a link to NF Trade, which is our partner. So you can say, oh, okay, I'm maybe interested in a 0.65 boost. That's the pina colada. So you just click the link and it will take you over. And so what these are cocktails owned by other investors, other members that they are selling. The floor price, if you're not familiar with NFTs, the floor price is the cheapest price currently available. So that's like, in this case, it's 0.8 BNB. So you can buy one right off the secondary market. And if you used NF Trade, you know that these are real. They're not fake, because all of our contracts are verified through them. So you can buy it on another market, but you won't have this verified collection check. So I would recommend you buy it here. The price would be the same anywhere else. So then you go and you want to look back and forth and see what the best value is. Combination of silver key card with a silver cocktail versus gold key card with a gold. And so that's all you have to do, is to figure out what you're willing to spend up front on your NFTs and what return you're going to get for that. And then you have to hold all those in the same wallet that you're then depositing into the contract with. And then you will see your daily burst. So like here, this wallet, this is a max wallet. And so you see this wallet has 1.5 is what it's earned. And then our contract, you only interact with it instead of every day. So it's like you can see here, a week is 168 hours. So this one is cycling through and is, about 2/3 of the way done of its. When this timer gets all the way to the end, I'll be able to choose whether I want to cash out this 1.5 or whatever it ends up being by the end. I can cash that out in BNB, or I can let it ride, which is a compound. I can also at that time add more. If I want to make another deposit, that's when you do it. You cannot just come up here like you see, it's blocked. You can't make a deposit whenever you want. You also have to do that when it unlocks on a weekly basis. So it's pretty straightforward and easy to understand once you do it once or twice. And
is there a capacity to change the wallet if somebody needs to, or is it once the wallet is locked in, that's it?
Once you've deposited, yes, that's it. But if you haven't deposited yet, you can move your membership keycard NFT and your cocktail NFT to another wallet if you want to, either before you'd make a deposit, or if you hit the max, which is 60 BNB, that wallet is now dead. You can also move your NFTs out of that wallet to a new wallet if you want to, take the ride again, so to speak.
Right. Understood. Okay. Great stuff. Is there anything that you want to cover that I haven't during the chat?
Gosh, this has been so great, and I can't think of anything. I'm sure I can't think of it. I just feel like hopefully it's presented in a way that people can understand it, and of course, if not, if there's any questions out there, I'm not really looking at the chat, so I don't know.
I think you've answered pretty much everything. There has been most of the feedback is just people saying how simple it is, and that's a good thing in a good way. They're mentioning that in a positive light, and it really is. It truly is. Every time we speak, it just refreshes my memory, and I think, it really truly is a protocol that is designed for simplistic passive income through sustainable revenue streams, and it's not massively expensive to get into either.
No,
and that's also key.
Yeah, and you can obviously the other thing that's good and what everybody should be doing is calculating those quote unquote sunk costs of buying the NFTs. But even that is not totally sunk, as you can see from the secondary market. People are going and selling these, and in some cases they're actually earning on them for what they paid for, or at least they're getting some of their investment back. On most of the cocktails that are currently up there are speculative buys. When the mint was happening, people bought more than they needed, and now they're selling them on the secondary market and generating income that way. I think that it's not a lot to get in, and also you can potentially get some back out of it, so that's a benefit because you own those NFTs. And I think that is pretty much. I think there might have been something else that I was thinking about, but I can't. I think that we've covered all the good stuff anyway. And if I'm missing something, oh well.
It was a great chat, and I'm sure we'll have another one of these and talk through. How much more time do you have? Do you have another 5, maybe 10 minutes?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I can go for another 20, 30 minutes if you need me to.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll open the floor up to anybody that might want to jump up on stage. I don't know how often you or people have the opportunity to speak directly to you, but I wonder if anybody wants to throw their hand up and come up on stage and ask a question, make a comment, anything you guys might want to say. So if there is anybody that wants to do that, throw your hand up now, and I'll gladly bring you up. Otherwise, we will call it a day. So I'll just give people a couple of minutes. This is typically where people go shy and nobody wants to say.
It's funny. I was doing an AMA yesterday, and I think it was the first time I actually got a question, like a vote audio question.
Right.
I said we get some in chat, but I never get anybody jumping on the mic.
Yeah, we've got one person here. I can only apologize for his behavior when he comes up. David, go for it.
No, I was just wondering because I was looking at the screen share of yours. What is the highest possible percentage that you can get out of Speakeasy?
1.5. You can earn beyond that technically, but it still caps at that. So, like for instance, that shot thing that I showed early on, that 0.2 bonus. Some people got it and they had like 1.4. So even though technically that would give them 1.6, the protocol still caps them at 1.5. So that is the max that you can earn in the protocol.
Oh, that's awesome.
And again, that's a sustainability issue.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's at some point. I mean, it's like an exponential curve, right? I mean, at some point you cannot. I mean, if people would be stacking their rewards at some point, you will be paying out, I don't know, 10% a week or something.
Right. We're trying to avoid, a situation, that you see in some other protocols where you get so many max wallets. It's just insane. Yeah. It was interesting because too, I noticed just this morning, we mentioned Wolf, and I'm involved in Wolf. they pulled back their max from 2.2% to 1.5. And, kudos. I mean, I totally get it. It's hard. This is hard to do. And I know they're approaching it differently in terms of how they're generating their external revenues, but still generating external revenues and paying it out, 2% is hard.
Right.
And to be sustainable. I mean, that's the thing. So
Right.
No, I think it's good to hear that there are protocols out there that actually try and value sustainability. I mean, sorry, my cat. People are so, I don't know, so spoiled by some couple of DeFi protocols that are out there that are paying like horrendous percentage out, but actually forget about the real world where, I mean, you're not even getting 1.5% in the bank in a year, right?
oh my God.
And
Well, unless you have an Apple card.
Well, right. Transparent, sustainable external revenue. You guys are transparent on where you're investing your money. Unlike some protocols that, they have the secret sauce that they talk about, or there's something in the background that we're working on, but we can't really tell you about it. You guys are fully transparent with everything that you've put in and where you've put it, so people can go and take a look. And I think that's also key.
Yeah, and I mean, I would argue, and I do make this argument that this is the type of thing, what we're doing is what you hear people say all the time that they want. So, that sort of transparency, that sort of, these kinds of things, especially when somebody gets rugged, and then it's like, okay, well, this is that.
Right.
And yes, it's not as sexy as, 1, 2, 5, 10, and 8 a day or whatever, but we are explaining how we're trying and succeeding at making it sustainable. And, like the point you made, it's insanely more than you could potentially make anywhere. And so, but then the people just have to support that and they have to be behind it and understand, that's why I liked the move that Wolf made, because I would rather, we have, it's the stakes there. I would rather make 1.5 for a lot longer than 2.0 and flame it out. And, that's it. So I think you just got to be realistic. And that's, I guess, doesn't matter whether you do it like we're doing it, where you're investing in other protocols, or you've got a system where you're investing in bots, trading bots, or you got a system where you're trading on the real life markets and bringing that back in, or you're like in Foodtopian's case, you're buying fast food restaurants, or it doesn't really matter what you're doing. It is hard to achieve those rates and keep it sustainable. So, people just need to understand that. And there's nothing wrong with degen plays. I do it myself. That's my whole thing, is just like, okay, I think that projects like Speakeasy, like Wolf, these types of projects that are trying to keep it real, should be in anybody's mix in their bag, I think. But, that's just my personal opinion.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Are there any more questions? Anybody else want to put their hand up in the air and come up on stage? Otherwise, I think we call it a night and let you get on to the grind. No one else. Okay. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Thank you. We've heard a little bit of alpha and then some extra alpha that's kind of whet people's appetites, I think, in terms of what you might be working on. I think people are going to be excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
And I look forward to having you back and perhaps, deep diving into that as and when you're ready to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
Great. I encourage everyone to jump into your Telegram and listen to tomorrow's Q&A with AJ. It is going to be very good. He's a very, very smart man, and I imagine you guys have a great rapport. So I can imagine it's going to be a free-flowing conversation full of little gems. So
yeah, it should be fun.
Should be good. Okay. Kirk, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who attended too.
Yeah. You guys have a good day. Take care.
Cheers.